the courage to draw the line, why boundaries are your greatest act of love. Have you ever found yourself saying yes when every cell in your body was screaming no? That moment when your mouth forms the words, "Sure, I can help with that," while your mind whispers, "Where will I find the time?" We've all been there. That space between obligation and authenticity, where we sacrifice our well being on the altar of being perceived as helpful. Before I dive deeper, I want to acknowledge the brilliant mind whose work forms the foundation of today's talk. Recently, I had the privilege of interviewing Rosalind Brisco, whose revolutionary insights on boundary setting have transformed countless lives, including my own. Rosalind isn't just a thought leader in this space. She's a boundary revolutionary whose work has liberated people from the prison of perpetual people pleasing. Her research has quite literally saved careers, relationships, and lives by teaching us that boundaries aren't just personal preferences, they're essential survival tools. The most generous people I know are often the most vulnerable to exploitation, not because they're weak, but because their hearts are so expansive. They see needs and rush to fill them. They hear requests and leap to respond. Their default setting is yes, and society rewards them for it, doesn't it? We celebrate the team member who stays late. We praise the friend who drops everything when called. We admire the parent who sacrifices sleep, health, and dreams on the altar of availability. We've created a culture where exhaustion is a status symbol and boundaries are seen as selfish. But here's what Rosalind Briscoe helped me understand: boundaries aren't walls built from selfishness, they're guardrails constructed from self knowledge. They don't diminish your generosity, they sustain it. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. A Black professional working in a demanding corporate environment found herself constantly picking up extra work after hours because she wanted to be seen as helpful. Each time a colleague asked, "Could you just?" she'd say yes, watching her evenings and weekends disappear into an abyss of other people's priorities. She feared saying no would harm her reputation or career advancement. The weight of being perceived as difficult, especially as a Black woman in corporate America, felt heavier than the burden of overwork. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Many people fear rejection when setting boundaries, but for marginalized individuals, the stakes can feel existentially higher. But as Rosalind Briscoe points out, this pattern leads to one inevitable destination: burnout. After years of overcommitment, this professional found herself exhausted, resentful, and questioning her career choice entirely. The turning point came when mentors emphasized something revolutionary. Self respect is a leadership quality. With their guidance, she began using professional boundary scripts. Simple phrases like, "I'd love to help with this tomorrow during work hours," or "I can take this on next week when I complete my current project." She started communicating her availability clearly and learned to explain when tasks could wait until regular hours. The results? Her stress levels decreased significantly. Her weekends became hers again. And most surprisingly, her colleagues respected her more, not less. Her actions inspired coworkers, especially other women of color, to set their own boundaries, shifting workplace culture toward greater respect for personal limits. One boundary setter created a ripple effect that transformed an entire department's culture. That's power. This isn't just a workplace phenomenon. It happens in caregiving roles too, where the pressure to give endlessly can be even more intense. Consider the story of a Black nurse working in community health who repeatedly went beyond job requirements. She offered personal contact information to patients. She did favors outside work hours. She answered texts at midnight. Her motivation was beautiful. She wanted to support clients facing systemic barriers to health care. But the lines between professional duty and personal life blurred until clients and sometimes colleagues expected constant availability. Early career enthusiasm made it difficult for her to say no, but repeated exhaustion forced reflection on sustainability. With guidance from supervisors on ethical frameworks around care relationships, she established clear rules, keeping all communication within official channels and declining requests beyond scope. She also educated clients on organizational policies regarding privacy and appropriate expectations. The outcome wasn't a reduction in care quality as she had feared. Clients still received compassionate support but learned healthy limits. The nurse felt less overwhelmed by unrealistic demands, yet maintained trustful relationships with those she served. Most powerfully, she became an advocate within her organization for staff training on boundary setting skills, a vital tool against burnout among caregivers serving marginalized communities. She helped normalize discussions around self care among Black healthcare professionals, navigating cultural expectations around service. There's a particular poignancy to this story that Rosalind Brisco highlights. For those from communities where collective care is deeply valued, setting boundaries can feel like betraying cultural values. But what she teaches is that boundaries actually enable sustainable community care. Without them, the caregivers themselves become casualties. But what about when boundaries are violated despite our best efforts? This is where many boundary conversations fall short. They focus on setting boundaries, but not on addressing violations. Rosalind shared the story of a Black woman entrepreneur who noticed team members regularly encroaching on each other's responsibilities under the guise of teamwork. This led some, including herself, to feel taken advantage of rather than supported. Colleagues would take credit for each other's ideas or expect assistance without reciprocation, a subtle but persistent drain on morale and productivity. Rather than suffering in silence, she initiated open conversations, affirming everyone's expertise with phrases like, I've been using this method successfully, while clarifying job roles. Let me focus on my area so we both shine. When necessary, she set explicit guidelines about collaboration versus overstepping. The results were transformative. The team developed mutual respect. Individuals became more confident, asserting their own expertise without guilt. Collaboration improved because everyone understood where true support ended and exploitation began. After months of feeling undervalued despite good intentions toward teamwork, she realized that healthy teams require both generosity and strong individual boundaries. She eventually led workshops within her business network, teaching other entrepreneurs these same skills, creating ripple effects across several small businesses led by women of color. These stories illuminate three critical truths that Rosalind Briscoe emphasizes. First, recognize and respect your own boundaries. Understand that boundaries aren't about being unkind or selfish. They're essential for maintaining your well being and effectiveness, especially as someone with a generous heart. Knowing your limits is the first step to making sure you're truly helping others without sacrificing yourself. Second, learn to communicate boundaries clearly and professionally. Setting boundaries isn't just about saying no, it's about communicating your needs honestly, respectfully, and confidently. This can be done through scripts or direct conversations that clarify what you can offer while protecting your time, energy, and integrity. Third, distinguish between genuine helpfulness and being taken advantage of. There's a difference between supporting others out of kindness versus feeling pressured to overextend yourself due to guilt or fear of disappointing people. Learning this distinction empowers you to help from a place of strength rather than obligation. But here's where many of us get stuck. We know boundaries matter, but we struggle with the how. We worry about seeming selfish or uncaring. We fear rejection or retaliation. We've been conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to our usefulness. So let me offer some practical wisdom gleaned from Rosalind Briscoe's research. Start small. Choose one area where you feel stretched thin out of obligation rather than genuine desire. Practice stating a gentle but firm boundary this week, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Use I statements that focus on your needs rather than blaming others. Instead of you're asking too much, try I need to protect my evening hours for family time. Remember that tone matters. You can be both kind and clear, warm and firm, compassionate and boundaried. Prepare for pushback. When you've always said yes, people will be surprised by your no. That doesn't mean your boundary is wrong, it means it's necessary. Find community. Surround yourself with others who respect boundaries and are learning to set their own. This mutual support makes the journey less lonely. And perhaps most importantly, forgive yourself for the times you've abandoned your own needs. Many of us, especially those from marginalized communities, were never taught that our well being matters. We learn to prioritize others as a survival strategy. Unlearning takes time. As Rosalind Briscoe so eloquently puts it, boundaries are not just about saying no to others, they're about saying yes to yourself. I want to be clear about something. Setting boundaries doesn't mean caring less, it means caring more wisely. It means recognizing that your energy is precious and finite and allocating it intentionally rather than letting others decide where it goes. Think about it this way: when you board an airplane, the flight attendant always instructs you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. This isn't selfish, it's strategic. You cannot effectively help anyone if you're gasping for air yourself. The same principle applies to your life. Your boundaries are your oxygen mask. They ensure you can show up fully for the people and causes that matter most to you, not just today, but sustainably over time. And here's the beautiful paradox: when you honor your boundaries, you give others permission to honor theirs. You model what healthy relationships look like. You demonstrate that love doesn't require self erasure. This is especially powerful for those watching you, your children, colleagues, friends, and community members. When they see you valuing yourself enough to say this far and no further, they learn they can do the same. So I challenge you today with all the urgency this moment demands. Rise up and reclaim your right to boundaries. Stop apologizing for having needs. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Stop believing the lie that your worth is measured by your availability. Your no is not just a complete sentence, it's a revolutionary act in a world that profits from your exhaustion and compliance. Every time you honor your boundaries, you're not just changing your life, you're disrupting systems designed to extract maximum value from your generosity. I want you to leave here today with this truth burning in your heart. The most radical, subversive thing you can do in a culture of endless demands is to know your limits and honor them unapologetically. Your boundaries aren't selfish, they're sacred. They don't diminish your compassion, they sustain it. They aren't walls that keep others out, they're foundations that keep you standing strong. So draw your line in the sand, hold it with gentle firmness, and watch as your capacity to truly love yourself and others grows deeper and more authentic than ever before. Because in the end, the courage to say no to what drains you creates the space to say yes to what truly matters. And that, my friends, is the greatest act of love there is.